My wife always had a passion for the sea. She worked as a lifeguard on a beach. I tried not to be jealous while I worked my office job. I believe she was a good woman. Our relationship was her first serious relationship that resulted in marriage. She told me she knew we were made for each other. What she failed to realize was that she was not nearly mature enough to be so committed to this idea of forever. She was longing for adventure without me, beyond her normal workday. She didn't come home when I expected one day. I called her once, at 30 minutes late, and again at 1 hour and 15 minutes late. I knew she was a grown, responsible woman, and I didn't want to be the harping father type of husband. When she did get home, she was acting very strange. It was in a way that seemed like she thought she was acting normal, but didn't realize I knew her better than she even did. She didn't see her own behavior in the mirror every day, and for that reason, I knew something happened today that didn't normally happen. I tried asking her what was wrong, or what happened today that delayed her. She acted like nothing different happened, but since she was late, she eventually said she stopped at the market to walk around during the sunset. I bought it for the night, and we went to bed. Nothing happened then, either, which was disappointing. In the morning, I woke up to her kneeling beside my side of the bed, sobbing into the sheets. The first thing she said was that she didn't mean to do it. She said she just wanted to do something fun and spontaneous, and it wasn't supposed to escalate the way it did. My heart started racing, and I felt like I'd been awake for hours. I asked her what she was talking about. She swallowed hard, started pulling her hair, and said she just started chatting with a man after he docked his boat. She was just walking, enjoying the sunset, and asked him about his boat. Their conversation continued until he invited her on the boat. It sounded fun, and he just seemed like a friendly person. She started sobbing again, and said she messed up. I asked if she cheated on me, and she could only nod. I jumped up and started packing my stuff. She kept crying, and found it hard to believe that I refused to give her a second chance, since she was being honest and telling me the truth. I told her she was being honest, about the fact that she didn't deserve me, and she was a sleazy girl for sleeping with some guy when she could have said no. I told her I wouldn't be the man to forgive her for wasting years of my life, and convincing me to believe she had self-control and dedication to me. That was all I said, even though she was trying to get me to say more for another 30 minutes while I got all my essentials. I knew if said anything else, it would only hurt me more. I went to my brother's house and filed for divorce. She started showing up once she figured out where I was staying, and did anything she could to get me to take her back. I wouldn't answer the door. Thankfully, my brother helped by dismissing her. I could have done it, but it's good to have supporters that help you do the harder thing, because it's the right thing to do for your future. I only told her one more thing. One day, when she tried contacting me, I told her she never should have gotten on the boat, and I refused to be made a fool for taking her back or thinking she wouldn't do this ever again. If I was the one to spend time with another woman alone, people would have easily said I was cheating on her. She left me alone, but couldn't stay in the house, so she moved in with someone else. Somehow, everyone she worked and socialized with found out she cheated on me, so gossip spread and everyone labeled her as someone to avoid. Her roommate was nearly cut off from society just for having her live there, so she kicked her out. I think she moved out of town or something, because why would anyone stay in a town where everyone knows you're a piece of crap? Since she left, my life's been going swimmingly. I started dating a woman that works at the library, and even though it's hard to live alone after years of having someone with me, I coped. Now my girlfriend sleeps over sometimes, and I look forward to that. We're adaptable to change, but there's never a reason to accept an unfaithful spouse. OP, your wife should have known better than to get in a stranger's boat. Maybe she got on his boat knowing she was going to sleep with him, so she felt like she wouldn't be misleading him or getting into a dangerous situation. It's always a better idea to leave a cheating spouse than to forgive them, because you just don't know the real reasoning behind why it happened. No matter what the reason is, they didn't have enough respect or discipline to maintain an honest and viable relationship. Everyone deserves to have someone genuinely love them without failing to take their dedication seriously. I am glad you followed through with leaving her and told her what she needed to hear. You're an example on how to handle such a situation. Surround yourself with people you trust and only maintain the attitude that you will make it through this unexpected life change. Thank you for sharing your story. Now let's get into our second story for today. My girlfriend and I had just moved in together for a year. I thought everything was great. We each went to our respective jobs and spent time together at home when we were off. She got home 4 hours before I did, and usually got changed, made dinner, did some cleaning and stuff around the house, and whatever leisure activity suited her mood. When I got back, she would update me on her day, and vice versa. These things didn't happen when I got home one night. I noticed she was still wearing her work clothes, only just starting on dinner, and looked worried that I was back already. I asked her what was going on, and she played dumb. I asked her if she just got home, because it was obvious. She said yes, reluctantly, and seemed to be trying in vain to come up with a reason why she'd be back so late. I pressured her, and she didn't like that. She snapped and said she didn't think it was fair for me to be questioning her like this. Then she threw out that she stopped at the store after work, and I did notice one grocery bag that she still hadn't unpacked. I looked inside, and it had a room temperature bag of shrimp in it. I asked if she planned on cooking them, since whatever she was keeping from me gave it enough time to thaw out. I continued pressuring her to tell me where she was after the store, but she refused and eventually settled for sleeping on the couch, so I would leave her alone. I brainstormed, but I couldn't think of what to do. I looked at her phone, but it was clean as a whistle, which made me second-guess myself. I was wrong for doing that, because it was obvious something was different. The next morning, after she already left, one of our neighbors came to me with something that would change the course of our lives. She said she had something upsetting to show me, but I needed to know. She showed me her Ring camera's recorded motions. It was my girlfriend in each clip, entering a neighbor's door adjacent to this lady's own front door. She looked happy in each clip, but the first one explained everything. She said she locked herself out of our apartment, but that was a lie. AP invited her inside, and she didn't come out until 45 minutes later, leaving with a huge smile, holding her keys. The next clips were similar, but each time took less introduction, and eventually none. I thanked this woman for showing me the evidence. I thanked her as genuinely as I could. She sent the clips to me. Funny that my girlfriend arrived home and parked the car right on time that day. She wasn't too happy to see me standing by the stairs, but it was nothing compared to how she was about to feel. I showed it to her, and she started stammering. She looked at me, back to the phone, back to me. She slowly suggested that he needed help moving some stuff around, and accepted her help cleaning. I laughed and suggested we go ask him. I grabbed her by the hand, and we walked up the stairs, but at the top, she started to pull away. I told her if she was seeing a man every day alone in his apartment, I should know him as well as she does. I knocked on his door, and as soon as he saw us, he slammed it shut. I let go of my girlfriend's hand like it was a snake. I called her a cheater and sped walk to my apartment to shut her out, locking the top lock as well. She screamed no and all the words guilty women say. She kept knocking on my door for a while. I eventually opened it, just the crack that the chain would allow, and slicked her from. I needed her to get off my doorstep sometime that night. At one point, I noticed she went to AP's house to knock on the door, but their exchange was quite short. Turns out, he had a girlfriend. She was eventually picked up, and some older man I never saw helped her load her stuff into his van. I found out later that it was a friend of her father's, who was looking to rent out his unfinished basement. It did not sound ideal, but my wife had no choice and no friends to take her in on such short notice, and under these shameful circumstances. When they asked why, and wanted to know what was going on, she tried to lie, but that only made the situation seem less severe. They gave her some advice, but mostly encouraged her to work things out with me. She eventually settled into the crappy bed she made for herself. One day, when I got home from work, I bumped into AP's girlfriend, on the way into his apartment. I asked her if that was her boyfriend's door, and she said yes, curiously. I said there was something she needed to know, and it grabbed her attention. She watched the videos of my girlfriend entering, and she was shocked. She banged on the door, and pushed him inside when he opened it, screaming at him and slamming the door behind her. So at least she knew the truth. I know these things happen, and I'm trying to keep my head up in good faith that I handled this the right way, and hopefully won't be hurt again. Opie, your girlfriend proved her worthlessness as a lifelong partner by entering another man's apartment before you got home. She completely betrayed you, and didn't deserve to have a safe place to live with any man. I am so proud of you for taking each step you did, including asking her about being late coming home, even though you got home after her. After you have the proof, it's good you went down to her car to greet her, and confront her infidelity. Once AP slammed the door, you didn't waste time talking to her, because she only would have tried to convince you to forgive her. There was no need to let her back in the apartment until the neutral party arrived to help remove her belongings. You certainly handled this well, and even told AP's girlfriend the truth. I respect you and wish you all the best going forward. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed 2 months ago, my wife of 10 years, I'm 35, she was 34, tragically passed away in a car accident, hit by a drunk driver in broad daylight. I cried nonstop for 3 days. We were planning on having kids and I had started a good paying job a year earlier, and we just purchased our first home just 2 months before her death. I just couldn't and still can't believe she is really gone from my life. It's like just yesterday, everything was heading in the right direction and would soon raise a family. She seemed happy in our marriage and stated how proud of me she was. The following week after the accident, I received her phone, which was locked. After a week, I found out how to unlock it by an obvious code I didn't think of earlier. I simply just wanted it to keep photos in her memory, photos of us and so forth. But I saw some odd things in her photos, included photos of her in someone else's house, a house which I had never seen before, taking provocative images. I continued scrolling down and seen the most heart-wrenching thing I have ever seen, which was her with another man. It was nothing sexual, but they were in a place that was obviously his. And just how close they were, I just knew that this was an affair. The guy my wife had an affair with showed up at her funeral. I felt like I got stabbed in the gut when I realized I seen him there. I began reading her texts and first I found out that she was on her way back from his place. 3 hours before the accident, she texted him saying, "I'm on my way." I knew that meant he was the last one to see my wife, not only see her, but having an intimate moment with her. And she would still be here right now if she wasn't seeing him. I feel like I'm going through a death of a loved one and a breakup at the same time. She did this behind my back and will never know that I found out. In a way, I feel she got to escape the heartbreak she put me through. Although I fully understand death is much worse. And even knowing everything, I know I would never ever wish this or any pain upon her. I found out not only through her texts, but her Facebook messages. Something that absolutely enraged me is that she told her closest friend that this guy from work wanted to take her out to dinner. Her friend encouraged her to go out with him. It enraged me because I knew her as well. And in person, she was always very nice. But my wife was asking her to get confirmation. And she said, "No, you are married. Do not go out with him." I honestly feel like she wouldn't have done it. But her best friend was like, "Oh, is he hot? Oh, do it. Go have fun." It's just enraging. This happened 6 months ago when she asked her friend about it. A few days later, she talked to her friend about how after dinner, she went to his place and had sex multiple times. When I read that, I honestly got physically sick. I honestly started going through a breakdown, vomiting in the toilet, then crying on the bathroom floor. I just can't imagine that this stuff actually happened, but it did. How could she do this? But as the days passed, and the initial shock began to slow down, I started piecing things together. At the funeral, I noticed something a little unusual, which was this best friend of hers talking to one of her co-workers. This was a friend from high school, and there was no reason she should have known any of her co-workers, but she was in fact talking to her co-worker who she had the affair with. Then she came and talked to me and gave me a hug. The guy who my wife was having an affair with came and shook my hand. Something about that just makes me feel sick. Like I was being humiliated in a moment of grief. There was him and her best friend who knew about her affair. I couldn't help but wonder, did her co-workers also know? It's been a month and I feel no closer to breaking away from the heartbreak. I miss her. I want her to be alive. If she was, I would probably even want to fix our marriage, but she's not here anymore. I still couldn't bring myself to read all of her text messages with him. There is hundreds and some are sexually explicit. My blood boils and my heart aches when I open their texts and I get hit with anxiety and an adrenaline rush. Palms get sweaty and hands shake, but I feel it's important. I knew everything. It just breaks my heart. This guy did things with my wife she wouldn't do for me. The thing that blows my mind the most is that there were no warning signs at all. Not one. Our marriage was good. She never did anything suspicious. Our sex life went on as normal, just zero warning signs about it. Other than the fact she started wearing a little more makeup than usual. Then I blamed myself for not catching on. Maybe this all could have been prevented. Maybe I should have done this or that. I am broken and don't see myself ever being happy again. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the support. I honestly didn't expect so much response. Everyone who wished me well, thank you and know that your kind words give me strength. I have got a response back from her friend stating that she is deeply sorry for encouraging the behavior and not taking my feelings into account. She never wanted me hurt as she claims. Honestly, I don't feel any relief from her apologies. About the phone, I cannot bring myself to destroy all the truth. I feel like I must read through the entirety of my wife's texts with this man, or I will forever go crazy wondering what did and didn't occur, how often, and maybe get some answers on if they were lovers. Was it just lust, sex, or what did she plan on doing? Obviously, in this state of trauma, I cannot emotionally handle reading their conversations, but I decided to keep the phone, to read it all, and then toss it and move on. Also, for people telling me to piss on her grave or saying this is karma, please drop it and don't comment. I loved her for over a decade and it's not going away like that. I still love this woman even with the disgusting things she has done. She was still my wife, a daughter, and an aunt. She didn't deserve to get hit by some drunk driver and suffer with bleeding on her brain that ultimately caused her death. Please go away. I do not need this and I am not a sick-minded enough man to have those thoughts. For everyone else, thank you so much. Throwaway account, although I've lurked here for a month with my primary account and know a few of your stories. Short version, wife came to me in early December with love you, not in love with you, and wanted a separation. I said, I didn't, and let's work on it. She said, okay. Shit, I spent all Christmas season trying to woo her, all over again. We have 2 little kids. I wanted to save our family. I love her and I loved him. At first, it was going well. She was totally into it. We made love constantly. She discovered a new kink. She liked it a little rough while being intimate. Okay, so I did that. She loved it. Holding hands, cuddling, you name it. She even began to say, I love you too. When I said, I love you, she's sending these sexy pictures of her in a bikini. We go on dates. We do family things and our kids love it. I start dieting and working out and drop 20 pounds in a month. I'm helping out around the house a ton. We do projects together. We start marriage counseling. She said, she's so relieved. We're working on things, but my gut one day just started screaming. Something is up. Her phone. It's always going off. She's always on it. She never lets it get too far and hides it from me. Someday she's totally distracted and cold. I noticed she has developed a nervous twitch in her hands. She's constantly grinding her teeth. This morning while she was sleeping, I grabbed her phone and finally snooped more than 1,000 messages. Some guy far away in his city on the other side of the country. We live in Canada. She had gone to that city for work back in October. They met there. He came to our city in November. The month my best friend and his family were killed in a head-on collision and I was devastated. She had been vague and distant then. No wonder. You exploded with ecstasy when we were intimate and it was rough and you enjoyed it, was one of his messages to her. Those sexy pictures. Yeah, she was sending them to him as well. He separated with 2 little kids back in his hometown. I wake my wife up, hand her the phone. There are some messages for you. I tell her. Oh shit, the look on her face. She flips. I want a divorce. She says. I tell her I'm not leaving this home. She must go. I take the kids to school. She's gone when I get back. Left a note. She says she'll help me with finances until I'm on my feet. I'm just in my last term of college after going back, which she agreed to 2 years ago and would support us while I did so. I have a good paying job lined up in May. Thanks to my college degree I'm about to get. I'm devastated right now. I'm a mess. Kids are home. My son is playing Minecraft and my daughter is happily splashing in a bubble bath. They're asking where mommy is. I tell them she took a little vacation. I know she's at her friend's house. Update. Thanks everyone for the supportive comments and great advice. It's the end of day 1. I'm not going to say anything stupid like it's a new beginning or things like that. I'm in a daze. I feel so hurt. Anyways, I just wanted to add some updates as I keep getting the same advice. For starters, I absolutely am going to get tested for STDs. Second, I'm going to see a lawyer and soon. As a broke student who is now a single father, I qualify for legal aid, which means the government will pay for the lawyers. There's a process and some bureaucracy, but I'm getting on that tomorrow morning. My wayward wife is an immigrant to Canada from Europe, Ukraine to be exact. I taught English there a long time ago and met her there. We fell in love, dated for a couple of years, married, and then I brought her to my home here in Canada. She's since thrived here, got citizenship, which my brother paid for because it's ridiculously expensive and a big cushy job with the federal government. She has nobody here. No family. Her social network is tenuous at best. Most of her friends are married couples with kids who don't have time to invest in a real friendship. The AP resides on the other side of the North American continent. He has kids of his own and is separated. I snooped his socials. He's not going to leave them to take a chance with some hussy he met once or twice for a fast lay. She's not going to be able to move there with the kids because she'll get arrested for kidnapping. She left the marital home and left the kids here. She had promised to support me while I went back to college full time. She has broken that promise. She has nowhere to live, no one to help her, and she's about to get crushed in the divorce. I seriously underestimated the extent of mental illness. The affair fog is playing havoc with her. She is seriously in trouble. And as someone who was her husband for 12 years until today, my heart is breaking.